Hey friends, Ash here. Welcome back to Gents. Hope that you're doing well. I gotta admit, I did not have this on my card for 2025. Yeah. To be fair, I'm not sure what I did have on my card for 2025. I just know this wasn't one of the things. What is that thing, you may ask? Because you did not read the title of the video, you just clicked? Good on you. Well, Guy Laroche, yes, the same Guy Laroche that gave us Drakkar, the original, and also Drakkar Noir, of all things, has given us a new fragrance, Drakkar Bleu? Yeah, Blue, in 2025. All right. I mean, to be fair, I guess if you don't already have a blue fragrance, then why not? But that's what we got today, a brand new blue fragrance from Guy Laroche, of all people. I bought mine from JCPenney for the whopping, unbelievably high price of 68 bucks. Yeah, it's actually really stupid low when it comes to full retail prices. And of course, we know as time goes on, this is gonna hit discounters and be like 20 bucks. But for now, 68, that's the number, which they totally flubbed. They were $1 away, just so close. Come on, dude, if you're gonna make it $68, just do it for the memes. 69, just saying, I'm just saying. Now, if you follow this channel for any length of time, you already know I'm a fanboy of Drakkar Noir. I mean, that's why it's over my shoulder all the time, watching over like a fragrant guardian angel. And that's because Drakkar Noir is one of the best fragrances ever. And I will not hear otherwise from anybody, especially when we're talking about something you can get for like $12. That's really good for 12 bucks, man. Beautiful. So yeah, I'm a fan of Drakkar Noir, but I will not let that set me on the path of unrighteousness. So I'll let you know exactly what I think about this little beauty right here, starting with the presentation. I pretty much caught that. So here is a good look at the box. So on the front there, you have the name of the fragrance, Drakkar Bleu, with the size and concentration, Eau de Parfum 100 ml, Guy Laroche Paris. You will notice up on top that it is ripped. I did that opening the box. I gotta say something. With cheap fragrances, sometimes, I don't know how they pull this off, but they make it impossible to open the top of the box. Like somehow it is shoved in there so hard that you can't lift the stupid flap. So be aware if you try to do like a normal fragrance and put your fingers in there like this and lift up like that, it's just gonna rip. On the back, you have your ingredient information, your caution information, and your barcode basically tells you not to spray it into your eyeballs. To be fair though, if you are that type of person who is actively trying to spray fragrance into your eyeballs, I question whether or not you can actually read where on the back it tells you not to do that. On the bottom, you've got a batch code. Mine is 387D006. Is that a 7 or a Y? It's a Y, 38YD006. Now I'm the moron. Here we have the bottle. You got the name of the fragrance, name of the house, and your concentration right there on the front. Typical Drakkar Noir style. This one is see-through and obviously is dyed a nice toilet bowl blue. You know, when you put the little blue cleaners into the toilet, that's what I'm talking about. I know a normal toilet is not blue. On the bottom, you have a sticker along with your badge code, and the cap does click into place. And in typical Drakkar style, there is no collar. You just have the atomizer crimped on there for the whole world to see. And you know what time it is? It is time to spray the Drakkar. It's okay. I mean, for a fragrance that is in the future gonna be like 20 bucks or less, I'll take it. And when this does pop up at discounters, if you wanna save a little more than what it's going for, which will probably be next to nothing, you can use these codes to mark it down even further. There are codes for Gift Express, Maple Prime, the Perfume Box, Fragflex, JOMASHOP, and more. So use those codes across any of those sites to save yourself a little extra money, whether you're looking at designer niche or clones. Okay, Drakkar Bleu. How does the Guy Laroche blue fragrance smell? And is it really, truly a blue? I mean, I guess it is, right? It is the name and the color, so yeah, I guess that's a foregone conclusion. Well, when you first spray this thing on, it is minty. It is real minty when you first spray it. Like I'm gonna go ahead and hit a blast right here on like the top of my wrist because I'm already wearing a fragrance. It's one of the spots where there is no fragrance. Super minty. Yeah, just really fresh, icy, a little cold, icy and cold, that's the same thing. Maybe even very lightly toothpastey in the way that mint comes across. It is a blast of spearmint. There's also apple in there, so you get a little sweetness, but mainly it's that mint that hits you when you first spray it on. Very green and invigorating, refreshing and bright. I actually love the opening. I love that blast of mint, but that is not gonna be for everybody. Some people are gonna smell that mint and just be like, whoa, you know, they're gonna think toothpaste, like I just said, and if that connection gets made in your mind, it's pretty much game over at that point. It doesn't do that in a negative way to me, so I'm all good with it, but you have to really enjoy that mint. It's not like a hyper realistic mint, you know, not like You or Someone Like You, which is a little more like you took a mint leaf and kind of muddled it in your hands. And obviously that fragrance is much more expensive than this one, so to be fair, you wouldn't really expect that. So it does have like a slightly synthetic edge to it, but all things considered, how cheap it is, it smells really good if you're a fan of mint. It does not last though. Mint can be fickle. It can be a lot like citrus. You know, you spray it on, it's there, and then it's gone. And that's kind of what happens here. The mint doesn't linger for a whole heck of a long time. Pretty quickly starts to settle into more of the lavender in here. Becomes a nice fragrance, a little touch of sweetness in there. Reminds me a little bit as it comes out of that mint forward opening of Versace Eros. And I know what you could be thinking, well, Eros has a lot of mint in there. Yes, it does, but it's not the same type of mint, right? Eros has more of that like sweet vanilla mint, a little bit more of like a designer fragrance mint style instead of smelling like actual mint. So what I mean by that is when you spray Eros on, you do get that minty aspect, but it doesn't really smell similar to a mint leaf. It's more like this this conjured up, nice, sweet, appealing version of what mint could be if it were done by a magician. And that magician is a perfumer. This is more spearminty in your face, half leaf, half toothpaste. It's a little different. But still, while that mint is not as aggressive, like I said, it starts to fade away. You pick up aspects of it, and that's the part that reminds me a little bit of Eros mixing together with the lavender as it heads through the mid. And also the apple in there sure doesn't hurt. But it continues to change and evolve from there. So while it starts off different than Eros, then it starts to dry down and get a little similar to Eros, and you're like, okay, I think it's just gonna settle into being an Eros-esque fragrance. As it dries down further, it changes yet again and starts to smell different from how Versace Eros dries down. You get more of the woodsy aspects that come out, the fur, the patchouli. It takes on an almost slightly barbershop-esque vibe, like a slight hint of barbershop mixed with you know, shower gel cleanliness, which makes some sense because if you go back through the other Drakkar fragrances, a lot of them smell similar in different ways, different approaches to barbershop style scents. Fougères, right? They've got that kind of aspect to them. And so once this starts to head out of the slight Eros-y style, it starts to take on more of that. A little bit more grown up, a little bit classy, but still with blue fragrance versatility, with a little bit of that barbershop sprinkled in for good measure. Now, you could also find some similarities to other fragrances as well. So you could find some slight similarities to Y as it heads through the mid. When you get that little bit of sweetness that comes through, that lingering apple, to me, it comes across a little more in the vein of Eros, and that's gonna be because of the apple, the mint, the lavender, the way that hits. But you could pick up some of like the vibes from Y slightly. Also, the way that it hits very green off the top with that mint could be vaguely reminiscent to you of fragrances like Cool Water by Davidoff. To me though, it is not super close to any of those. It's closest to Eros for a little section of the fragrance's lifespan, but on the whole, it's kind of doing its own thing, maybe just vaguely inspired by some of the other fragrances out there, and also hearkening back to its past a little bit as it dries down. So while it is a blue fragrance, both in name and color and slightly in style, it does keep things, at least as much as you can for a really bargain bin designer fragrance release, on the classy side as well, kind of. I will say it also has some bits and bobs of maybe like Fierce, Abercrombie & Fitch Fierce / Mont Blanc Legend, and that's gonna be down to how the lavender is used in here. Comes across in a fairly similar way to those scents. So it definitely is something that is bits and pieces of other things put into a blender. But I guess to be fair, when it comes to a fragrance like this one, it's not something that you would expect to be crazy different and like insanely out of left field, right? And yeah, actually, the more I smell it, the more it is like very minty and then slightly arrowsy and then fades more into kind of Legend Fierce. And that's when it starts to take on a little bit of that barbershop-esque feel to it. So yeah, just kind of like an evolution through different fragrance styles as it goes along to an extent. And I would imagine the fragrance is gonna come across a little bit different to different people. So if like you're really familiar with one of those scents that I mentioned, but not so much the others, then you'll probably key in more on that aspect and be like, oh yeah, it reminds me more of this. But if you're familiar with one of the other ones instead, the reverse will happen. Now let's talk performance really quickly. I have only had this for a few days, so I've only been able to wear it for a few times. It is so far about what I would expect from Guy Laroche for an eau de parfum. It's not super loud. It's basically completely average. Projects well initially, especially with that mint off the top. Then it starts to settle in a little bit closer, but it still lingers for a decent amount of time. Kind of the same thing happened with Drakkar Intense. I was expecting that one to be really strong, project, last for a long time, and instead it was more so-so. Kind of the same thing happening here with this one for me. Although I guess you could say it's maybe a little more forgivable with this one, since it's supposed to be more for like spring, summertime use, since the blue name is in play here, and that more versatile scent structure is in play. And as I just said, yeah, it is a little more spring, summer-esque, more of a daytime fragrance, I'd say, than evening. But it does have that type of usability that you can pull it off about whenever you want. So as long as the performance is okay for you, where you're going, what you're doing, I think you could pretty much pull this off year round. It's that type of scent, really. It's not like a crazy, hyper fresh, lots of citrus, very airy kind of scent profile. It is fresh, yes, but it does have those aromatic notes as it dries down, those bits of woods that come out as well. So those notes, even though they're not like really heavy or deep or ambery, they do give it enough depth that you could pull it off when it's cold outside. So as I said, the seasons it's probably most well suited for are gonna be spring and summer. So does Drakkar Bleu replace Drakkar Noir in my heart? Of course not. But for a bargain bin fragrance, for a scent that you and I both know is going to pop up at discounters for 20 bucks in the near future, 25 on the high end probably. Does it do a good enough job to be worth checking out, especially if you're balling on a budget? To me, absolutely, with the understanding that it is a fragrance that is playing in some familiar territory. But it does have good quality for the price point. It is appealing as long as that mint right off the top doesn't turn you away. And the bits that it does borrow are from fragrances that are really well established for being easy to wear. And it is definitely that. It is an easy to pull off fragrance. There's nothing really off-putting here. There's nothing that stands out in a negative way or anything like that. I would say it's probably going to appeal a little bit more to guys like mid-20s and up, most likely, because it doesn't have a big, huge blast of sweetness in there. It's not overly loud either. And that's what a lot of modern fragrances are going towards. Really big performance, extremely loud, aggressive scents, really sweet fragrances. Even the fresh fragrances, a lot of them are sweet. And this does have a bit of sweetness to it, but not as much, right? It's a little more reined in, a little more subdued. And as I mentioned a couple times, you know, it leans further as it dries down into that aromatic kind of fougere styling. And so for a lot of guys, that's going to actually appeal to them a bunch. But for maybe younger guys who are looking for something louder, sweeter, a little more attention grabbing, this may not be very good for them. So it really depends on your taste as to how it's gonna work for you. But for me, happy to have it, nice addition. And even though this is named Drakkar Bleu, it's not blue in the same way as, say, Bleu de Chanel or Sauvage, for example. I said Sauvage. Sauvage. So there is Drakkar Bleu 68 doll hairs, or wait just a little while and get it for less than half that. Thank you guys so much for hanging with me. Stay safe out there, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys.